we have an injury and we're so fixated on the recovery, our threshold for pain, but more so that the threshold, the awareness of pain gets triggered easily. So we tend to be more sensitive to any types of sensation and perceive them as pain stimuli.
I really enjoyed connecting with today's guest. We talk about all kinds of things, but particularly a struggle that he's been going through the last few years. There are a lot of great takeaways here for sure. I'm Jason Heath. This is Contrabass Conversations, and we're talking today with Bernardo Alviz, who is from Bogota, Colombia. He got his undergrad there and then headed to Germany to study, got another bachelor's and a master's degree there, and started working around Germany in contemporary music, playing all kinds of music. Met his wife, Phoebe Russell, who's been on the podcast there. They moved to Australia, and Bernardo started to get settled there, and then this injury started, which we get into. I will save that for Bernardo, but it's quite a story. It goes in many directions you might not expect, and there's a lot to learn for sure. I really had a great time with this, folks. I know you're going to enjoy this conversation. Quick shout out to our sponsors, Dorico, Ear Trumpet Labs, and Modacity. More on them later, but let's dig into this conversation with Bernardo Alviz.
Very nice to meet you, man. Thanks so much for the invitation.
Oh, you bet. I'm just glad I got the time zone right. That's the giant problem I have. Although it's gotten better since I actually visited Australia. I just didn't quite understand that whole international dateline thing. And I would have something scheduled, and I would be a day off. I'd be like walking around in my neighborhood, and someone would text me and say, "I'm ready." So
yeah, we live in the future, man.
I know. Wow. It looks like things are going okay pandemic-wise in Brisbane or in Queensland. How are things?
There hasn't been anything here, actually. We had like a lockdown, like a 6-day lockdown, and that was it. Mm-hmm. Actually last year, well, when it all started, but then as soon as cases dropped, everything went back to normal, and it's been basically nothing has happened here. Wow. Which is very strange because the rest of the world is like a different dimension.
Yes, I would trade places with you in a heartbeat in terms of where we're living. We've been pretty spectacularly bad here in the U.S. Although finally things are starting to get a little bit better and they're starting to open up. There's still no concerts here, but there at least you can go in a restaurant, which is the first time in a long time. So
everything basically open here, like concerts, full audience. People are going crazy about it because they've been waiting it for so long, so they're rushing to the concert halls, and actually been quite good. But I guess we've been very fortunate here, and it's great for us, especially because Phoebe's still in the orchestra, and we rely heavily on it, and the orchestra has been really supportive, and I guess we had a perfect situation that Australia is so isolated, so that helped pretty much with it.
Exactly. Yeah. It helps. It can be a real disadvantage to be 17 hours away from Europe or the United States or whatever. But in terms of global pandemic, maybe it's good to be on your own continent, sort
Absolutely.
of isolated. Well, it's so great to hear that things are picking up, because I have this vision in my mind of like the Roaring 20s all over again, and people are going to go to concerts like crazy. And it's good to hear that people are excited because we're so thirsty for music here. There's
Absolutely, yeah.
And finally some outdoor, especially like jazz combos and stuff, have started to play, and you would not believe how happy people are just to see music. And here in San Francisco, they bring this thing called the Bay Area Jazzmobile down to the park, and they set up, and everybody's in cafes watching, and my musician friends that do a lot of freelancing, they're starting to see some of that work at least come back. No symphonic work here in California, at least.
Oh, yet, really? No orchestra yet.
No, I mean the San Francisco Symphony and Los Angeles Philharmonic, and I think San Diego Symphony, they're doing nothing full orchestra, but they're doing real small ensemble stuff and streaming and that kind of thing. Other parts of the U.S., they've opened kind of sort of some concerts, but nothing that would look like a concert from 2019 or before.
That's right.
Well, I feel so. I got a chance to hang out with Phoebe when I was in Australia. I wish I could have extended that trip more because I'd love to see Queensland. And it's like, you know, I went to Sydney and Melbourne, and that's it. That's like going to the United States and going to like New York and Philadelphia, and that's it.
That's right. That's right.
So I look forward to the next trip, whenever the heck that is, and getting to explore more of the country.
Yeah, I hope we can. You know, we've always had this idea of organizing something that integrates a lot of bass players from everywhere in the world, and what better place than here in Queensland, which is like holiday every day, all day around.
It looks like such a beautiful place to live to me. That's one of those, because it seems like the climate's decent in Sydney and relatively decent in Melbourne, but it seems like Brisbane is like that. Just what you'd have in your mind is what a lot of people would think of as a perfect climate.
Absolutely. And it doesn't fluctuate much. So when it's hot, it just stays hot. And the winter is incredible here. The winter is just like, every day is 21 degrees. It's just amazing. Yeah. It reminds me of Colombia a little bit, actually. But,
well, I was curious about that because I have a colleague. I work for the Eastman Music Company. They're a musical instrument company. And one of my colleagues, Ruben Salazar, is from Colombia and grew up. He went to school in Bogota and is from Medellin, or the other way around. I can't remember exactly.
Right.
But I've talked to him a lot about the climate and what it's like. And it's similar in terms of like kind of nice year round.
Yeah, I would say like, not to Bogota, because Bogota can be very rainy and cold. Mm-hmm. But Medellin, definitely. Medellin used to be called the city of the eternal spring, because it was like every day was 22, 23, warm, blue skies, and it's just really, really beautiful. Wow. I every time I went to Medellin, I was like, damn, this is way better than Bogota. I hope no one from Bogota is listening to this.
Well, it's one of those places that we here in the States, at least, we have this image of Pablo Escobar and all the, watching Narcos and stuff. And then I talk to people who are from Colombia or after that era, and it sounds like that's probably not the impression. That's not reality necessarily.
Absolutely. It's changed a lot, really. I mean, I haven't, in the last 10 years, I've only been twice. I was going to go last year, but, last year doesn't count as a proper year. And from what I've seen, it's changed so much. Even when I was there, like a place like Medellin was like changing so much for the better. And it was really nice to see, because when I was a kid in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was not a great place to be. There was a lot of extreme violence everywhere. And in any way you get to experience some of it. So it was impossible to not be touched by some of the violence. So whether it's by, being close to an attack or being mugged on the street and stuff like that. But I'm very happy that Colombia is a country that it seems to be moving forward, despite the administration, as you can imagine. Politicians are always in the wrong side of things usually, but the people are great.
Well, and it seems the musicians, I met quite a few musicians from Colombia over the years. It seems like it has quite a rich musical tradition, or in terms of people picking up instruments, and both, I guess, classical music instruments and otherwise. But it just seems like music's at least a big part of the culture and the people that I've chatted with from Colombia.
Absolutely. Like, last time I went to Colombia was 2018, and I took Phoebe with me. It was her first time in Colombia. She had an absolute blast. And one of the really nice things that we did is that we got invited to my old university, which is in Bogota, the Universidad Javeriana, which is a really big, recognized university. And they told us if we wanted to do like a masterclass, and we say, hell yeah. And, we did it for free and all, because I would love to just go back and, meet all the kids and stuff. And all these players came from everywhere, from all the unis, not only my uni, but every uni. And we had a whole day of masterclass, and Phoebe was astonished with the standard of playing. It was just, and the passion, all the kids were just there giving it all, and with like these not so great instruments, but it was just, and they make the sound so good and such great attitude. And we were just like, oh man, it would be great to have a bit of that all the time. Just students like that, just passionate and giving it all. So I'm happy that it's moving that way. I would love to come back more often, but right now it's a bit tricky. Hopefully in the future we can keep doing stuff like that.
For sure, yeah. And I think I remember watching some video about the challenges of trying to get from Australia to South America. It looks like it's one of the like how does one fly that because it sounds like it's never a direct flight, right?
No, look, well the flights that are let's call it the friendliest flights are like 30 hours, and you have to go through Chile. Uh-huh. But for example, when we got married in 2016, and my parents and my sister came from Bogota, and we don't have much, financial advantages, mm-hmm. So they had to find the cheapest flight, and the cheapest flight was a flight that went through New York, and then Dubai, and then Singapore, and then Melbourne, and it took them 47 hours, something like that.
Oh, I will never complain about that. I was complaining about my nonstop flight from San Francisco to Sydney. It was like 17 hours of nothing but ocean. I will never that 40 some hours. Yeah.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Wow.
My poor family, man. It was horrible. There were zombies when I picked them up from the airport, unrecognizable.
I have several. South America is a huge continent, obviously. So I've talked with folks in Brazil, but that's like saying I'm talking with people in northern Canada about something happening in Mexico. But it's interesting to me in terms of double bass, where the traditions in various countries, and I know that there's a big Italian tradition in Brazil, at least. In terms of the fingering system. Is there a tradition like that in Colombia? Like, do most people play French bow, German bow, samandal, belay? Are there any sort of commonalities in terms of how people start on the bass?
I think it's wildly mixed from what I experienced. My teacher in Bogota, he was born in Ukraine, but he grew up in Moscow. He went to the Tchaikovsky Conservatory. So I think he learned like through the Simandl school. Mm-hmm. He played German bow, but I think the school in Moscow was French bow. Like one of his schoolmates, he was a bit older, was Rinat Ibrahimov.
Sure.
But I think he was a fair, like 5 years younger than him. So I think they were not entirely together during uni, but my teacher plays German bow, and I think it was all about the Simandl school. But for example, I know of people that have studied with Petraki and have taught in Colombia, and it's just like it's just really hard to say. For example, what you say about the established traditions in Argentina. Bottesini lived there, so there's a huge influence from the Italian school there, and in Brazil, from what I've known from Brazil, I've been there several times. I know a lot of really great players, and the Streicher school in Brazil is really, really, really big, mm-hmm. Especially in São Paulo. But I couldn't really tell you in Colombia. I just remember there's so many different types of, and it's like I would say it's very hard to pinpoint exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it is in so many places in the world. You could say that about the United States here. Like, it's just a mishmash of everything. Yeah. And there are certain regions that'll tend to be more French bow or German bow. I was in Russia that was like 25 years ago. It makes me feel old, but I remember I was playing with this American Russian youth orchestra, and we had a lot of bassists from Moscow and then from St. Petersburg and some faculty. And at the time, if I'm remembering right, it seemed like the folks, at least that I was working with, St. Petersburg seemed to be more of a French bow town and Moscow was a German bow town, or maybe I have that backwards. But it was interesting. Even within Russia, there were many different schools of playing that I remember.
My old teacher in Berlin, Klaus Stoll, he was building this huge map of of all the bass schools in every single country. So it was this huge, this huge paper that it was like 5 meters by 4 meters, and he manually was writing this like genealogical tree, of what schools, who taught where, and I think that's someone that you could definitely ask about established traditions. And he was, and he had all these countries already, laid out in his map, and the only country he didn't have was Colombia. So he was asking me, who teaches there? Who did they learn from? Because he was trying to trace direct lines from Simandl and the Milan school from the 1800s and all that stuff. So it's wildly fascinating.
I am so proud to have my course with Discover Double Bass, Beginner's Classical Bass, out in the world. This was a long time coming, friends, and this course is designed, as the name implies, for beginner bassists who want to learn how to play classical music, or for more experienced players who wish to revisit the foundations of technique. The course is comprised of 66 lessons over 4 hours and covers a wide range of topics on classical bass, which will make a real difference to you playing. It is the perfect course for beginners. I feel weird saying that since it's my course, but I definitely believe in it, to build a solid foundation of double bass technique and to help you feel confident playing. Many of the lessons include transcriptions of the pieces, exercises, and etudes, so you have everything you need to practice at home. I spent hundreds of hours putting this together over the last few years. I'm so glad to see it out in the world. We have a link to it in the show notes, or just visit discoverdoublebass.com/Jason Heath. This episode is brought to you by Dorico, and one of the things that attracted me so much to this app is the beautiful user interface. Here's Daniel Spreadbury, Senior Product Manager, on how they thought about designing this user interface.
It was building on that idea of having everything in its place and a place for everything, basically, and not just throwing everything at the screen and hoping that you'd be able to find your way through it.
I have become a true fan of Dorico. I have the full version. I use it every single day. I use it in my lessons. I use it for... I have become such a fan of Dorico. I use it every single day. I use it in my lessons. I use it for making arrangements and exercises and everything like that. There is a free version, SE, Dorico SE, and you can do everything practically that the full version of the software lets you do. So if you're doing arrangements for a student, duets, or anything like that, or exercises, that is perfect for you. Dorico.com will take you to their page on Steinberg's website, and I can't say enough good things about them. Thank you so much for sponsoring the podcast.
It is interesting. If you think you just go back a few generations and you can be kind of close to connected to Simandl. I have an old colleague back in Chicago has this bass family tree that, especially in the Czech and German school of playing, this tree, and it traces down to some of the people I studied with. So I could realize, like, wow, I'm 4 steps away from, it was Czech people mostly for that. And Chicago had a big Czech and German settlement in terms of everybody, but bass players too. So
that's right.
Yeah. How'd you get? Is your family musical? Did your parents play, or how did you discover music and then the bass?
That's a interesting story. So no, I guess there's a couple of musicians, but they are they're not like close related to me. There's a lot of writers in my family. I don't know. So my dad, he's a doctor. Mm-hmm. He trained as a surgeon, but he was mainly practicing as a GP and a lot of emergency, which in Colombia is brutal.
I bet.
And he did that for a long time, and he had to work a lot. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom. He took really good care of us. So when I was like 9 years old, in the school that I went to, they did this aptitude test about music, and I failed brutally. I couldn't play guitar, I couldn't play xylophone, nothing. I was like deaf, and I didn't have a sense of touch or anything. So they recommended me that I pick something different, because you have to pick something different in school. So I picked like visual arts, and I spent all my childhood just drawing like anime and things like that. So I did most of that, and I managed to, learn how to deal with oil paintings and acrylics and all that stuff. And when I was like 14, 15, I got very much into punk.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love punk music, and now you live in San Francisco. I was a huge Dead Kennedys fan.
All right, there we go.
I love Dead Kennedys. Jello Biafra for mayor. I remember that. So I love punk. So when I was like 15, I was hanging out with all these people, which my mom didn't like so much. And I thought, I want to be in a punk band. That would be my dream. And then I would think, I suck at music because that's all I've heard. I'm tone deaf and all that stuff. So I thought, what is the easiest instrument I can learn to play in a punk band? Well, the bass. You just have to play, watching Sid Vicious videos. He doesn't even play.
Yeah.
And he's in a punk band, I just have to make faces and all that stuff. So I saved some money from my allowance, and I bought an electric bass. My dad helped me, of course, and when I was 15, 16, I would just come home, and instead of playing video games all afternoon, I just one note. I would put the, I don't know, whatever, Sex Pistols, and I would just play along, whatever, and then my dad thought, would you like to learn a bit more? One of his cousins actually plays bass really well, so I was like, hell yeah, I would love to do that. And then so I started having these little lessons with my dad's cousin, who's a really, really lovely guy. And it was like we met like 2 times, and he realized I was crap. Sorry, I know. But then he gave me this old VHS from Patitucci,
mm-hmm.
like from the 80s. He's teaching electric bass. So I took that home, and I just watched it every single day because I thought, man, this guy is the bomb. Because I was like, I've never seen something like that. And then he told me how to play some scale patterns and stuff like that. So from then on, I started to get really serious, and I spent all day just playing scales. I would just sit down on my bed, just watching TV, just playing scales, and whatever, and trying to do the Patitucci exercises for the right hand, which was really good. And then I stopped doing like the punk thing because I got a bit bored, and I started getting a lot into jazz. And of course, I fell in love with Jaco Pastorius when I was like 16. I was like, wow, it doesn't get any better than this. And I was like completely infatuated with Portrait of Tracy. I was just like, I dream of that stuff. And I was like, this is the most beautiful thing I ever heard in my life. How can you make sounds like that with just a bass, the easiest instrument.
Right.
That's what I thought, So in Colombia, we only do until year 11.
Mm-hmm.
So we only do 11 years of school. And I was on my year 11 when I was 16, and they were doing all these vocational tests to see what you wanted to do. And I either got something in arts or something in, medicine because of my dad, I guess. So I finished school, and I failed to enter any medical school in Colombia. I applied for so many, I just got rejected. Because, I remember why. I would go to the interviews and say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I want to be a musician.
There you go.
So, fail in mid. So I didn't get in, I was basically just drifting, and everyone was very concerned about me because they thought I was going to be a doctor like my dad, and everyone was kind of pushing for it. And then I started getting into listening to more double bass stuff. You know, the first thing I heard from double bass was "So What," the Paul Chambers.
Mm-hmm.
Is that got me straight away to do. I was in. Mm-hmm. And then I started getting all these records, you know, Scott LaFaro, all these incredible people. And then I said to my dad, "Oh, I would love to play double bass, blah, blah, blah." And, you know, no one wants to take me seriously because it's like, mate, you don't even know how to read music. What are you thinking of? And then, so I enrolled into engineering school, and I went there for like a month, and I didn't want to go back because it was horrible. It's so boring. And then I said I had saved a lot of money from my things that I did, from my allowance and stuff like that. And I said to my dad, I want to play the double bass. And I guess he could tell that when I really wanted to do something that I could really make it work. Because in high school I was a really good student. I was, you know, had really great marks, and really so he agreed to buy me a double bass. That was when I just turned 17, and he said, "Look, this is only going to work if you do your best now and you try and get in a proper school, in a proper conservatory. And if that doesn't happen, then you need to find something else." Which was great because everyone else was just saying, "You're an idiot. You don't know what you're doing. You should do it as a hobby. You have no talent, blah, blah, blah," all this. And, you know, have you seen The Last Dance?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, like I took it. I took it personal, baby. I took it personal. So I felt very encouraged that I felt like my parents were actually, you know, behind me. So I was like, all right. So then I got this double bass, and I got this teacher, and I started practicing like crazy every day, blah, blah, blah. And then 6 months later, I don't know if it was out of pity or but I got admitted into my uni, which was the best thing that could ever happen. But I was so bad because I couldn't read music. I couldn't do anything. I just knew how to play some scales and things. And so they had to put me in semester 0 because I have no idea. They had to, you know, I had to start from absolute nothing just to learn how to read music, to, sing notes and, you know, solfege, all that stuff. I have no idea about any of that. And it was really hard at the beginning because I had no experience or anything. And so I was like, I was the lowest ranking student in the whole university. And then, you know, I took it so seriously and so personal that I really make it up of myself to be the best that I could be. And, you know, and the rest is history. I managed to do, you know, very well. I when I graduated, I was valedictorian. I gave the speech. You know, I had the best GPA, and then everyone started to apologize in my family. It's like, "Oh, we didn't think you were gonna do so well." It's like, I told you. Anyway, I've always been like this, unapologetic and just focused. Anyway.
Wow. You must have been so driven to go from like not reading music, and especially that pressure you just have to have with like a parent who's a doctor. My wife's a doctor now, so I have kind of like a window into that coming from music and then went over. So I can only imagine. And then to like go in and be, acutely aware at 17, that's like, my skill set is a little raw. But I love how you entered it. So many people in the bass world, I think, enter in through that punk rock door or that heavy metal door. I was playing violin and I ended up thinking I was going to get beaten up at middle school. So I started playing bass in a band called Toxic Death as this punk band, Dead Kennedys, and then fast forward a few decades and I don't even know where my electric bass is anymore. But I was sitting at Andres Martin's festival in Mexico maybe 4 years ago, and all the clinicians were sitting around a table, and every single one of us said, "How'd you get into music?" And it was like metal, punk, metal. Nobody.
That's right.
So you're not alone. That's
right. And that's great because you cannot get better education than the Dead Kennedys.
Yeah, for sure. So did you, Europe did that come immediately after the degree in Bogota? You then headed over?
Oh yeah, as I told you, I had a real plan. Because in the middle, I say in the middle of my degree in Colombia, I already thought, okay, I'm gonna go to Berlin, and I would be telling everyone I'm gonna be playing the Berlin Phil, and everyone would start laughing at me. It's hilarious. But I knew what I wanted to do. I always had this. Always try to think long term. And I always try to work in that way because I don't know, it just seems logical to me. And so when in 2009, which I was in the middle of my degree, I loved Klaus Stoll. For me, he was like the greatest thing. And I realized that he taught master classes in Mexico, in this beautiful town in the south of Mexico, in Oaxaca. And in 2009, so I applied for this festival, and I got in, and it happened coincidentally, and very good coincidence. I was successful in receiving a scholarship from the Mazda car company, which was amazing. And that's why I own a Mazda right now because I'm so grateful. So basically, it was this scholarship that they give art students, and it's just money, no questions. And so they'll give me all this money, and I could use it whatever I want. So I bought a flight case, like one of those styrofoam, which in retrospect, it was the best and the worst decision I've made. And I pay all the expenses with that money. And, it's quite expensive to go to Mexico and to stay in a dairy hostel. And so I just did that. And I went there and I met Klaus and I played for him everything that I could play, all my repertoire, and I had such an incredible time. And I was so inspired by him, and I thought when I met him and I knew, and I really got to experience him as a teacher and as a musician and as a person, I thought, I would, this is what I want. I would love to follow this line of musicianship. So we talked a lot about me going to Germany, and they explained to me the advantages and some disadvantages that may appear. And so the deal is that I had to finish my degree first. So I had to have a diploma, something tangible, and before I headed up there. And he wrote me a recommendation letter, which was very sweet. I didn't ask for it. I still hold that. Actually, I don't know where it is. I should find it. It was really sweet. So I came back to Colombia, and I had this. Now I had a long-term vision plan because of having talked to Klaus, which was I would finish university, which would take 2 more years, and then straight away I'll go to Germany and just made it work, and that's pretty much what happened. So I finished my school 2011, and because I happened to have an Italian passport because of my mom, then I didn't have to go through a horrible process of asking for a visa, being from Colombia, which it can be a horrible, degrading experience. So, and I was happy that, to get that freaking passport, it took my mom 7 years.
Wow.
Or just going to the embassy, meeting the deadlines, finding papers, all this stuff. And so I just thought to myself, well, she make this effort, I better use it for my improvement, right? So I remember I had my graduation, and the next week I was in Berlin, just straight away.
Wow.
And then it was hard at the beginning. It was really hard because it was like a cultural shock for me in terms of the music, the bass side of things. Well, I had no money or things like that. I don't come from a wealthy family or anything like that. And so I think my dad used his retirement money to pay for my flights and stuff. We call it in Australia, call it superannuation. I don't know how you call it in the United States. Mm-hmm. But I was pretty much broke, which is how you do it. And then 2 months later, I auditioned for the Hanns Eisler, the school of music. And obviously I didn't get in because I needed to sort a lot of things out. And my feedback was that, I had some technical things that were not working for me. And there were a lot of younger people that were doing really great things. So, and then I took it personal. So I stayed for the whole year just practicing like a maniac and having lessons and understanding exactly what I needed to do to start embracing the German school, especially the Berlin school, which is very particular in how they think about sound and how they grab the bow. And I auditioned again in January, and I got in, and that was awesome. that was, and then from there I just started building my whole career in Germany. But it was very, very hard at the beginning. Well, my bass got completely smashed in an airplane. That's what I said, that styrofoam case was the worst thing I've ever done. And so I didn't have a bass, and I didn't have any money, and things started to take better shape when Klaus and his wife helped me a lot, and they found me a place for me to stay with this really crazy lady that lived in the southwest of Berlin, which is a really fancy neighborhood, which it was the neighborhood where all the high-rank Nazi officials used to live.
Oh, wow.
During the war. And in fact, this lady, which I owe a lot of, this lady is just wonderful. In her basement, she found all these plates. I don't know how china, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it all had swastikas everywhere. It's
my goodness.
This crazy piece of history. And so I started living in this woman's house and just practicing like crazy. And I found a way to get a bass, and it was hard because I was just some kid from Colombia, and I have no reference, no school, no money, no anything, and I would just go to these bass shops and say, "Oh, can I have a bass?" It's like, no, no. So I think Klaus had to help me and said, "Oh no, this kid, you can trust him with your bass." So, very nice bass maker in Berlin rented me a bass for a good price, just €50 a month. It was a Thomas Martin bass, And that's with that bass I got into school, and that bass was pretty much the best thing that happened to me that time, because otherwise I don't know where I would have done it. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Ear Trumpet Labs. They make an incredible mic for upright bass called the Nadine, and 6-time Grammy-winning jazz bassist and former Contrabass Conversations guest, Christian McBride, is a big fan. Christian says, as an acoustic bassist, it's very important for me to have this instrument amplified as naturally as possible. What I love about this microphone is that it makes the instrument sound exactly how I hear it in my head. Honestly, I don't know if you can get a better review than that. The Nadine is an instrument-mounted condenser mic with an incredibly clear, natural sound and great feedback rejection. Ear Trumpet Labs is offering a free t-shirt with mic purchase from their website. Just visit www.eartrumpetlabs.com/contrabass to claim yours and learn more about Nadine. There is this mode in my practicing app, Modacity, which I totally love. It's called Deliberate Practice, and it's such a cool feature. Here's Modacity founder and CEO Mark Gelfo on how this works.
One of my pain points as a musician was like not really having a method to generate reliable improvement. And deliberate practice is like the scientific method for music practice. So what you do is you identify the one thing that you want to improve, be it articulation, intonation, emotion, comfort, whatever it is you want to improve, and brainstorm or choose one of the pre-suggested strategies for that area of improvement, and then test it out. Record yourself trying that strategy, listen back, and press yes, it worked, or no, it didn't work, to create that improvement.
It's such a clean way of tracking your progress. I do it every day, and it has done wonders for my bass playing and just my overall enthusiasm for music. You got to check it out. Modacity.co is the site, and if you go to our site, you can click through it and get a special offer for lifetime access for this app. Thank you so much for sponsoring the podcast, Modacity. Well, you know, people talk about having grit, you know, having the determination to get through tough times and make it work. You are like the poster child for grit in music, heading over with, you know, you basically zero money to Europe, and then your bass gets smashed, and then you don't get into school. And what do? You know, I think a lot of people would abandon ship, but how cool to stick with it, and then things work out, and you got a place, and you get a bass, and you get into school, and then you look at what you've done since then. If no one had known that it would be remarkable even without, you know, your origin story and everything you went through to get to there. It's incredible.
Yeah, from the dead Kennedys to Hans. I keep bringing it up. It's just I had a shirt with the symbol and stuff.
Yep.
Well, I had a shirt that I painted myself because I couldn't get a.
That's even better.
That's more punk than anything.
That is certainly more punk. Oh man. I know Berlin has a thriving contemporary music scene. I know contemporary music is a passion of yours. Were you into that before, like when you were in Colombia, or were you still thinking traditional bass repertoire? Like how did that interest come about for you?
So I think in Colombia is where it all started. Really, my university. It is renowned in Colombia because it has a very intensive and well-structured like theory program. And it is like really intense. It's really, really intense. Just training about, you know, theory and analysis and all this stuff. And it's so intense that there's a course every semester. So if you fail one semester, you're already late.
Okay.
So you already have to compensate that with another semester. So it's like, you know, you do it or you have to do it, or otherwise you won't graduate in time. So a lot of people didn't like that. And it can be quite intimidating, very, very stressful. But I thought it's one of the best things I got from uni was that incredible theoretical formation. And you know, because I got in and I had no idea about anything about music. You know, I barely, well, from my family, you know, I had a bit of exposure to, you know, the classics, Beethoven, Chopin, all that stuff. But through my uni in Bogota, through those theory classes and stuff, we got to analyze from Bach to, one piece that I remember pretty well is Gerard Grisset partials, which is it just opened my eyes and it's like, wow, this is awesome. It's like, it was like punk, but with instruments.
Wow.
And like I got to know and understand, music from, Stockhausen, Lachenmann, all this stuff. And so, and it was part of the culture in my university that people were very much into those kind of things. And my group of friends, they were very much in that kind of things. And I think my close group of friends in university from Colombia are doing also those kind of things, and they're doing a lot in contemporary music in the moment. And so I went to Berlin. My ideal was just to go to the best bass place that I can think of, and also because I really, I love how everything that Klaus represented, and obviously, Berlin, who wouldn't want to be there as a musician and play there? So, and then when I was there and I was in the school and I was a bit more, I just settled down a bit more, and I was already living with Phoebe at the time, and I started getting a bit more acquainted with more contemporary stuff, especially through the school's contemporary music ensemble, which everyone hated it except for me, because I was so curious. I wanted to, I was like, oh man, I'm in the place to do this stuff. You don't get to do this in Colombia. So every time they will hang a sheet of paper, and you have to write your name if you wanted to play. And I was always the first one to put my name in the ensemble, and they were struggling to get people because no one wanted to do it. Everyone hated it. And I was like, yeah. And I got to do incredible things with the school contemporary music ensemble. It was such a great thing. And then from there, I just started to get more into it on the side, because I was still preparing, traditional audition repertoire things, because very, very important in Europe. And then I don't know. I guess. The more I did it, the more I got to build a reputation from it. And so they would call me to do stuff, and I heard you do this, blah, blah, blah. And then so I started playing a lot, all this stuff. And it was one of the greatest things I remember from my time there, and something that I really, really missed right now. So yeah, a lot of crazy stuff. Like the last thing that I did, we entered the stage in a truck. So the truck was backed in the concert hall like this, and then we were inside the truck, and the whole ensemble was in the truck, and then the how do you call that?
Like the tailgate or whatever, the thing in the back.
Yeah. That door opened a little bit, and then a quartet inside the truck started to play this. The composer is called, I think it's Von Biel. I don't know. It's a guy from the 60s that it's just like, and then the door completely open, and then we have to get out of the truck, and then we'll just find our place, and we were all dressed really badly, like we were like derelicts or something, and we started playing this piece that was all based on the natural series and overtones, and it was just this incredibly beautiful, acoustic experience, and it was beautiful. Anyway, that's
wow.
One of the things I remember. Yeah.
You're reminding me of talking with Paul Cannon, who plays bass in the Ensemble Moderne, I believe, if I remember right. And he's posted a few YouTube videos of like, what's it like playing bass, or what it's like playing bass in the ensemble. And it's like him, like, you know, so he's just got his iPhone on him the whole time. He's like playing kazoo for a little bit, and then he's like shouting in this piece, and then and it's or like, you know, just some polyrhythmic insanity coming at you, and he's like going through the bass parts. And what a fascinating, and then of course, like those experiences when you're there and you're live and you're taking them in, there's this dynamism that is just really, I find, particularly exciting. We've got a series here in San Francisco, not this year, but normally there's the sound box at the San Francisco Symphony. It's a smaller space, and they have usually 4 or 5 groups set up on like different stage areas, and then the lights all switch, so there'll be like a viola solo, and then you go over and it's like some chants music from the 60s, and then something like contemporary, and it's really interesting. They're the exact sort of thing you would hope to see in contemporary music. It's always packed. The crowd is 20 and 30-year-olds mostly. It's incredibly popular here. The problem they have is the space is not that huge, so they're always sold out like the moment they come. But I love taking that in. I don't do much playing like that myself. I've done a little bit back in Chicago, but what a cool musical avenue to explore.
Yeah, it's just I always thought the best way to listen to music is by playing it. So that was I don't listen too much of music, but the only way I listen to music is by playing it, and that was for me the best way to experience everything that could be done and maybe needed to be done. So yeah, I miss it. I miss it so much right now, but it's all right.
Yeah,
life goes on.
Life goes on. Things will come back. So Phoebe forwarded me this piece about your hand injury, your arm injury, right? And so like, and that's something that I have never gone through anything close to that, but a lot of people go through, maybe not that severe, but certainly go through something, and it's so scary, it seems like, because like a lot of the time the reasons aren't that clear, and the solutions, like Robin Kesselman, who's principal bass of the Houston Symphony here in the States, when he was at Curtis, I believe he was at Curtis, he started to have all sorts of problems with his left arm, and basically couldn't use his left arm for a solid year, and then come back, and it was this incredibly slow process, and fast forward, and he's principal bass of a major orchestra. It all worked out, but it sure probably didn't look like it might, for a long time. Like when did you start to have problems? And can you just tell that story? Not that that's probably the most fun story, but it's
no, it's fine.
Okay.
It's all good. Yeah, it's good. It's good to talk about it. Man, I don't know. I never ever had a problem ever. Mm-hmm. I never not even playing the craziest music that I did in Germany, and because I play in the State Opera in Berlin for like 4 or 5 years, mm-hmm. and then on the side I was practicing and doing crazy stuff. So I would have 10-hour days and stuff, and never had any problems at all. It was all good, and so we moved to Australia in 2017, and Phoebe started her job at the Queensland Symphony, and I got a contract with the orchestra, so we were both playing. We were just having the time of our lives, we were just it was awesome. And then 1 month in the contract, I started getting this horrible. It was not horrible actually. I would play, and then when I would stop playing, when there was some rest in the music, I would have this burning feeling like here on the top of the ulna bone here, and then because I've never had a problem at all, and sometimes I would have little achy pains, and I was like, it's fine, I have such great technique. What can happen to me? And so I just kept going, and and the schedule in the orchestra was pretty intense. Just the ballet, what they do with the ballet season here is that they cram 20 shows in 2 weeks. So you basically have double shows every day. It's just horrible. And then because I was on a contract, it's like, you do it. And I was fine because, I thought, this is great. I want to play. And then on top of that, there was symphony concerts on the side and all this other stuff. And then that little pain started getting a bit more present and started to burn a bit more. And it used to be that I would play and I would start playing and then would just burn for like 5 seconds and then would just go away and then it's fine. Mm-hmm. And then that burning period started to extend to be longer until I remember there was like 2 or 3 days before everything collapsed. I had that burning feeling all the time. So my right hand was just like throwing, inside. But it's not like an acute pain, like it's just a tiny burn, and so you don't think it's much. So just we had these concerts and I woke up one day and I just couldn't move my hand. Like I woke up and I went to get my phone from the side of the bed and it was this horrible, now it was a sharp, intense pain. It was just, I couldn't do anything. I was like freaking out. And we had rehearsal that morning and we tried to play it down like, it's fine. It's just irritated. And then, so we went to rehearsal. We're playing opera or something. And I just couldn't hold my bow. And I wanted to play. And it's like, no, you shouldn't play. So I had to go to the hospital straight away and just to get checked. And that's how the whole process started. And I had a lot of tests done and I had, it's called ECU, which is the name of the little tendon that goes along here. What's it called? Extensor carpis ulnaris, which is, so you have this muscle here. You can see my surgery scar. You have this muscle here and this muscle goes very small and turns into this super little tendon that inserts on the bone on a thing that's called a groove. So the ulna bone, there's like a little dent, and that bone goes inside when you do this. So when you do this, the bone moves that way. When you do this, the bone moves that way. And on top of it, there's like a sheath of just tissue, and the sheath is what keeps the tendon on the groove. And what had happened is that sheath, it was all inflamed. It was just, and then so it was making the tendon rub against the bone like crazy. So basically the whole sheath was inflamed, and so in the diagnosis is tenosynovitis. So ECU tenosynovitis, which is it's just basically inflammation of the tendon, of the sheath that covers the tendon, which is what I had. And so so the recovery is usually 6 weeks to immobilize my hand, and unfortunately they have to cancel my contract because I couldn't play anymore. And it was very stressful because I had to spend all my savings just dealing with this thing. Then I had to have some cortisone injections to manage the inflammation and the pain, and that worked a little bit, and I started to get a little bit better. And then I started doing all this kind of therapy. I went to acupuncture and stuff, and actually, I don't know if I should tell this story, but this acupuncture guy put a lot of needles, and then he put this very long needle around here, and then I felt this like electric shock, and it turns out that he bruised the nerve.
Oh no! Yeah,
he bruised the nerve that goes like here, and then when he took the needle out, again I got this like, it feels like an electric shock, like zzz. And then I went home, and then now every time I went like this, like I deviate my hand like this, it was this.
Oh no!
It was like what's that game called? The
like the surgery game where you reach it. Yeah.
I was like all the time. It's like, Jesus, no. So I started freaking out. I had a mental breakdown when that happened, because it's like another thing. And so I went to the guy. Actually, no, I went to the guy and said, I have this weird thing. What is it? And the guy just freaked out. Just completely freaked out. So I went home, and the guy came looking for me. Yeah, he was so terrified that I was going to sue him, and so he decided to treat me for free. And I was so desperate that I was like, oh, sure, why not? So he gave me all these acupuncture treatments without inserting needles, and I was just doing cupping and all this stuff, and I think I got another cortisone injection, and I have my thing in a cast, and around, I think it was June or July, I started actually to get a lot better. Like I started slowly playing back again, and I was really, really happy because it didn't feel that bad, and I was playing in orchestra, and I was very afraid of not playing, because I had already committed to the Lucerne festival, which was going to happen in July, and at that time, if I canceled my participation, I think I would have to pay for the flights, and obviously I didn't have money for that. So it was a relief that I felt great. And actually 2 weeks before that, I was playing the orchestra again, just taking it easy, but it was completely fine. And I was really happy. And I was like, oof, I dodged the bullet, and so I went to Lucerne. That was great. I came back. I did some orchestra work, and then I went to Germany again to do this crazy music where I was on the truck, which was is one of the biggest contemporary music festivals in the world. And I was not gonna miss that, and I paid for my flights and said, I'm not gonna miss this, and so I did it, and I came back and I started doing orchestra, and unfortunately, I used to play a lot of soccer, football, and I sprained my ankle. And I was on crutches for 2 weeks, and as soon as I got off the crutches, the injury came back.
Oh no!
Because of all that excessive force, and then I started feeling that burning thing again, and I wasn't even playing, so I was like, oh no, and then that was in December 2017, and I haven't played ever since. That's when I had to quit, because I thought, all right, I need 2 months, right? So I took 2 months, because it was the orchestra's holidays anyway, so we're not going to play. And we went to Colombia, and we had a lovely time. We came back, and then the orchestra was going to start in February, and they had, in 2018, I had everything planned the whole year. I had this incredible year ahead of me, and then February came, and I was okay, I'm going to start playing again like I did last year before my recovery, and then I started playing very slow, and then that burning feeling got worse and worse, and suddenly my hand was just like pounding all the time, and so I realized that this is not good. So I had to pull out of everything for the next 3 months, I think. So cancel everything, hopefully that 3 months was going to be enough. So I started going back again to physiotherapy, and they say, yeah, 3 months is going to be fine. And then it wasn't fine. And, you know, at 3 months I was, you know, unemployed, doing nothing. It was just, it was eating me inside, especially because, you know, Phoebe was doing so well, and we used to be all the time together, just pushing together at the same time, and suddenly I felt like I was just lagging behind, just being a burden. You know, it was a horrible feeling. So I went to see this hand surgeon here in Brisbane, and that was not the greatest experience. This guy was you know, I don't know how to explain it without saying any swear words. Well, this guy, you know, he would come wearing cowboy boots and like prancing around the office, you know, and he was the surgeon of the rugby teams and stuff like that. So this guy was a big shot, you know what I mean? So I met this guy, and he was late, like 1 hour late or something, for every appointment, and he would just give me 5 minutes of his time. So, like I was there at the verge of a breakdown, because, you know, suddenly my career was over, and this guy's like, all right, I guess we'll have to do an MRI. Okay, I'll see you in 3 weeks. Like, he didn't let me talk or anything. So, okay, MRI. So I got the MRI. I went back to him, and he was late. I went inside, and he's like, I have bad news and I have good news. Like, super blunt, you know, how you say in English, tactless.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I was just there like, you know, shaking. And he's like, the good news is that it's just inflammation. It's like, okay. The bad news is that you're at fault, because it's probably is your career that is making it like that. So you decide. That's how he said. That's how he put it.
Not the most helpful.
and I didn't know what to say. And then and I say, by the way, also what we found in the MRI is that you have a thing called positive variance. And I was like, what is that? So positive variance is when you have a bone that grows more than normal. So, you know, you have two bones in your forearm, right? The radius and the ulna. And the radius is bigger, thicker than the ulna. So the radius usually takes a bigger workload than the ulna. I read about, I don't remember, it was like, I might be wrong, it was like 70% of the load of the hand goes on the ulna, on the radius, because it's bigger. I might be wrong, but it's something like that. Yeah. So my ulna had grown way too much, so it was 3 millimeters longer, and I think it's also because I was born with this thing called hypertrophy, which is that my entire right side is bigger than my left side, like a lot, actually, like this. You see, it's like,
oh yeah,
and thicker. So they think that contribute to that, the ulna being longer. And so what happens is that, so your wrist has this like half moon shape, and when the ulna is too long, then it just goes like this. And so the guy said, look, you have this thing, but I don't think it's a big deal. So he said, I could operate on you right now because it's easy, but I can assure you that you'll be back in 4 months with more problems. So he said, I recommend you look into your options. And it's like, I was just devastated. And the guy said, you know what? Let's meet again in 3 months. Let's see what's going on. And I was like, okay. So I left, and I don't know what to do. So I started going to this physiotherapy, and they put my hand in a cast again. And And all I had in my head is just, I have to wait 3 months to see this guy, to see how he's going to help me, you know? So it was just dreadful, these 3 months, just sitting at home, just waiting, because I felt like I shouldn't do anything. I should just wait for this. I should just wait for everything to be better. And 3 months passed and nothing got better. Actually, it got worse, because the mental state that I was going to is just making everything worse. So I got obsessed with it. I would be thinking every single second of the day, am I better? Am I better? Is it getting better? Is it getting better? And that's impossible to assess. So 3 months passed, and I went to see this guy, and he said, again, he was late. I went with Phoebe, and Phoebe would ask him these questions. The guy would just snap at her, like I'm the surgeon, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember Phoebe said, would if they do this surgery, would the surgery be intrusive? And it's like, and the guy's like, it's a surgery. Surgeries are intrusive. And it's like, well, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's just so out of touch, you know. And so he said, you know what? Let's wait another 3 months. Let's see what happens. And I was like, oh man. And I left the room. I just started crying, because I don't know. I just couldn't wait 3 months. So I said, okay, let's wait 3 months. And then I was keep doing this therapy, and I didn't know, but apparently if you keep your cast for too long, it can be really, really bad. And I think that's what happened to me. So the guy told me, oh, you shouldn't have your hand in the cast anymore. And I said, okay. So I just took the cast off, and he said, oh, you should live your life normal now. I said, okay. So I took the cast off, and I just started to be normal. Mm-hmm. But all I could feel was just weird things in my hand. And then my, my mental health got so bad that I just got this psychosis that there was some feelings in the hand that I need to feel constantly for me to have this feedback. Mm-hmm. That I was getting better. So I was feeling with my hand a lot, testing if I had pain. And then I had pain. It's like, oh, okay, it's not bad. It's not good. And then 5 minutes later, I test again. Pain again. And then I did it so much. And it's just this like neurosis, you know. And one day I went for a walk on my own. And then during the walk, I was testing my hand to see, am I getting better? Am I getting better? And then I felt something like, I felt something weird. And I felt like something moved. It was a weird feeling. I was like, what's this? And then I went home, and I remember this whole part of my hand, like all this part got red. It was red, like, you know, like red, like it was crazy. I've never seen that in my life, just complete red. And it was like beaming with it was hot, it was so warm and beaming with this warmness. And I thought, that might be the magnesium oil that I've been using or some excuse that I was finding for myself. And then I started getting this horrible pain now. It was not the little burn, because that's what tendon pain is. It's just a little burn that happens when you use your hand and then you stop using your hand. It just burns a little bit. Now I have this horrible, disgusting pain here on this little inside area. And every time I do this, so every time I deviate my hand, it's just this like, wow, this horrible, horrible sharp pain. It was just, yeah, I can't describe it. It was just, and now this pain was there all the time. I couldn't move my hand. It was not burning. It was just like someone was stabbing my hand. And So I was freaking out. I didn't know what I did. So I went back to that surgeon again, and he's like, "Oh, you should be fine by now." And it's like, I have this horrible pain here. It's like, "Oh, that's strange. Okay, you want to wait 3 more months?"
No.
And I was like, and I said, "You know what? Yeah, sure." And then I've never seen that guy again. I never saw him again because I was like, "Screw this." And at that time, I went through some really, really, really dark periods. It was, I had really, really dark thoughts. I'm not gonna elaborate on that. It was really bad because everything was finished for me, and I had to cancel everything, and my career was finished. And basically, they take that everything that I have been working for so many years, and all the great things that I had accomplished out of my own will and my own grit, like you mentioned before, it was all gone. And I was new in this country, and I couldn't show anything that I could do. I couldn't share with anyone all these things that I had inside, all this music, and it just felt so. It feels so worthless, It just and no, there's no prospect for anything, and it's just really, really, really depressing. I'm trying to remember. It's very, very heavy to remember, but I think it's good. So I decided not to see this guy anymore, and just trying to deal with it. That was in like August or July, and then everything was going so bad, and then I started seeing a therapist, a psychologist, and just talking about myself, and because this was being really, really bad with my relationship with Phoebe. It was affecting us a lot because just a year ago I was this highly functioning person, and now I'm just some thing there that cannot do anything, and it was my right hand and my dominant hand, so I couldn't open doors, I couldn't open bottles, I couldn't do anything, and so I felt completely useless. And so after this, we had this meeting with the surgeon. I realized, I need to accept this for what it is. Well, that was after going through therapy and just realized that I need to be born in a different way. I need to seek another life for now, because I need to break this horrible cycle that I've been in for the last 6-7 months. I don't know, 8 months or something like that. So I got a job. Well, firstly, I have no idea. The only thing I've done in my life is just to play the double bass and play an orchestra. So what skills do I have that are transferable? What can I do? What can't I do? And I just couldn't think of anything because I was so focused on trying to find a way to get back to my life that I didn't know how to apply to something else. So the only thing I could think was, maybe the orchestra can help me with a job or something, like some sort of career transition and stuff. And the only thing that was as an offer was this job in the telemarketing division of the orchestra. So I just took the job, and it just felt strange because I've never had a job before.
Right.
Well, in Germany I used to walk dogs and sweep snow and stuff like that, but that was different. I used to babysit a lot, but that's different. This was just like an office job. I've never had done and telemarketing, a call center. I've never done anything like that. I hate talking on the phone, and it's just So I just thought I had to get this done because I need money to pay for my therapy and all that stuff, and I need to start taking things on my own and just start building something different, not stay on the standby pattern that this surgeon told me to be in. So I started my work at the call center, which was definitely not a great deal of money, but it was enough to pay for my 2 sessions of therapy a week that I was doing. And luckily enough, I found this amazing physiotherapist that works with the football team here. And the best thing about this guy was that he was more invested on helping me psychologically than physically. So because he had been through that, he was a high elite athlete that got injured and he couldn't do his thing, so he got into physiotherapy and then he helps people. And this guy was just like amazing, because I went to him and I couldn't move my hand at all. Not because I couldn't move my hand, because I was terrified of moving my hand. So I would just keep my hand like this all the time. And that was the thing that he noticed at the beginning. He's like, he said the first thing that I noticed is that you're terrified of your hand, and we need to change that. So with him, it was a really marvelous process of understanding how we process pain, which is the core of his work. That pain is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a thing that we need to understand in order to navigate injuries and setbacks like this. So one of the main points that he kept making for me to believe in the process is that when we have an injury and we're so fixated on the recovery, our threshold for pain, but more so that the threshold, the awareness of pain gets triggered easily. So we tend to be more sensitive to any types of sensation and perceive them as pain stimuli. And he says that for some of those stimuli, the pain is not a direct affliction on the injury, but just a response of our mind to it. So obviously there is something bad that is causing pain, but we cannot let the pain dominate us completely. That just keep us from moving forward. So he was trying for me to just don't be afraid to move my hand and do these exercises and to compare levels of pain. If the pain is like, you say, if the pain is 7, 8, just don't do it. But if you think the pain is 3, just, learn it, learn the pain and try to deal with it. But I don't know. It's just, I guess it's about being more sensitive, but at the same time, not so sensitive. I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, that's when my life started to change around, because I started to understand that, there's a way to improve this, and this guy helped me a lot psychologically, and at the end of that year, there was some jobs coming out in education, which is what I wanted to get into, because I thought that was that was the area where I think my skills would be the transferable straight away, teaching. So I got 3 teaching positions at 3 private schools here in Brisbane, and so I quit my call center job, which was really great.
I'll bet.
That was no disrespect, but that was a bit depressing to be.
Yeah,
it was not for me. I had lots of respect for people that have to do them, because it's a horrible job. You call people, they don't want to talk to you. They think you want to scam them for the money, and it's, you get a call at 7 p.m. It's like, excuse me, sir, would you like to discuss your ticket options? It's like, no, go away. One time I called this lady, and it's like, hi, I'm calling from the orchestra. He said, oh, this is for my mom. She died yesterday. I was like,
oh no.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We don't need to talk about the orchestra. I'm so sorry. That was horrible. Anyway, so I started teaching in the schools, and that was great because it was like I was teaching music, which is, you know, is related to what I do, but it was a big shock for me because I didn't have any experience dealing with like children at that level. So it's been an amazing learning curve for me because it's been a great experience dealing with some really incredible gifted children and understanding how the process worked. But that's another story. Just to go back to the injury, because my life was improving. I was starting to feel better because I was just putting in my head that, you know, that was my old life, and now I'm being reborn in this new self. I was making in my head that I was not going to be able to play ever again, so I need to build some sort of like a base for what my life would be, and to have like a stable income in case something bad happens, and I can afford surgery and stuff like that, which I couldn't. And so a very friend of ours, I don't know if you met him, Stuart Riley.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I have good memories of a party at Stuart's place back in 2019. It seems like 10 years ago at this point from the pandemic. But yeah, of course, Stuart's great.
It's a beautiful Victorian house.
Yes, exactly.
So his wife knew this very, very prominent hand surgeon in Melbourne. And they say, you need to have an appointment with this guy. And so it's hard to get an appointment with him because this guy is like the best in this part of the world. And so I managed to get an appointment with him in January 2019. And to be honest, I was already building this thing up for myself. And 2 weeks after that, I was going to start my new jobs at the school. So I was just like, I just want to focus on rebuilding myself. I don't want to think about these stupid injuries. It's making me crazy. And I still have that pain. That pain was not going away. So I'm just dealing with that. So I got the appointment, and I was in Melbourne, and that day I was going to drive up to Brisbane, which takes 2 days, you know. So we managed to squeeze the appointment very early in the morning, so we still have time to drive the whole day. And I was like, you know, after all my experience with this other dude, I was like, I don't want to deal with this, you know, I'm done. I don't need this shit. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry.
So I went to this guy's office. It's a lovely, lovely office, and he lets me in, and he had these two guys sitting at the back, and it's like, oh, don't mind, these are 2 hand surgeons from Switzerland. They came to see my practice. And I was like, oh, cool. And then the first thing that the guy's like, please tell me your story, you know, and it's like, and that has never happened, you know. And so I started telling him, and I just cried and cried. I just started crying, and I couldn't help it. I just started crying because finally someone wanted to listen, you know. I like the guy, the expert that knew the stuff wanted to listen to me, and you know, I told him everything, and turns out that he's a regular patron of the Melbourne Symphony, so he understands perfectly, and he loves music, and he goes to the orchestra all the time, so he knew how important this was for me. And so, well, basically, you know, the appointment went what I imagined. I knew that he was not going to say something radically like he's going to heal me, obviously. But he said, look, the options are that we need to do more imaging. And then from there, we need to see if maybe you need an arthroscopy, which is an exploratory surgery, right? And he basically told me to go and stand by like the surgeon, which is what I expected. He was like more empathetic, you know. I go way better with this surgeon, and so I trusted him, and I was like, yeah, we'll be in touch, right? So I just went back to Brisbane, and I pretended like nothing happened, you know. Like, yeah, it was great to meet the guy, but it's pretty much what I expected, you know. That no one would tell me exactly what's happening and all that stuff. And then some months passed, and I started my new jobs, and I was feeling better about myself, you know. I just building up my confidence, and obviously I couldn't play anything, and then that pain just wouldn't go away. And it was just slowly would decrease, would recede, but it just always there, that horrible pain, just not go away. And it had already been, 2 years dealing with that stupid pain. It was almost 2 years. And so I was like, you know what? I think I need that thing. I need that arthroscopy. So I called the surgeon and said, can we book an appointment? So I went to Melbourne for the day, and I said, let's book the arthroscopy. I said, okay, sure. And so I booked we did the arthroscopy later. That was in May. And it was weird. I've never been, like, the only surgery I had before that was like a hernia, but it's nothing like it. And the guy was just so lovely and so attentive. It was just, I felt really in great hands. And so what they did is it's just keyhole surgery. So they did like 4 little holes, 1, 2, 3, 4. And they just put a camera in there. And that surgery confirmed that the positive variance was actually causing a lot of damage, because the fact that it's so long, then it was grinding against the joints here, and that explains that pain. And there's a thing called I don't know how to say it. It's like a cartilage in form of a triangle. They call it the trampoline of the wrist, and it's what allows you to do all this stuff. And that was being really like damaged because the bone was too long, so the bone was grinding against this other bone here like this, and the cartilage is supposed to keep them like this, but this one was like this. So they confirmed that with that surgery, and so I had the surgeon said, look, we have 2 options now. You can actually live like this for the rest of your life, or we do the next surgery, which is that we remove the excess of your bone, so that to create space in your wrist. And I was like, I remember I said to him, look, I need you to be deadly honest with me. I like honesty. What would you recommend? Like, dead honest. And he's like, do the surgery. And I said, let's do the surgery straight away. Let's book this. Because he was saying that a lot of people have this, but people don't, you know, it doesn't manifest in people because people don't play double bass, right? You know? Because, you know, using your hands all the time, your wrists. And so he said, because you do that for a living, you're always using your wrist, and it was going to come out sooner or later. So we booked the surgery for, I think it was late August that same year, 2019. And that surgery was brutal because, you know, they open here.
Yeah.
They cut through muscles, tendons, and then they take a 3 millimeters of your bone, like a carrot wedge, boom, and they close the bone and they put a metal plate this size, and that's supposed to help. And it did help. it took like 6 months for me to actually feel, but that pain is gone. Like,
woohoo! Wow!
That like at the beginning, obviously, because everything is so damaged. When the good thing is that he said there was no tear in the cartilage or anything, so the cartilage was just a bit worn and very stiff, because cartilage are supposed to be very squishy and bouncy, and this, my cartilage was just like a piece of plank from all the beating from the bones. And so like he said, look, this is going to be like watching trees grow. It's going to be very slow, the recovery. And I didn't have to do any therapy or anything. It's just on its own. You just don't be stupid. don't do stupid stuff. Just be aware that it's a long, sensible process. So I think after 6 months, I realized that pain was gone, and that was great. However, I started getting other pains, and it turns out that the plate was now causing damage.
Oh no!
Because they put a metal plate like titanium or something.
Yeah,
it's a huge thing. So that was last year. It was in like March or May. I don't know, April, May. I had this lump here. It's like a big lump, which was at the end of the scar. So my scar is here. So I had this huge lump here and a little lump here. And it was so painful. It's just like, it was a horrible pain. Like I couldn't do anything. I couldn't twist my hand or anything. And I would touch and it was just so painful. So I had to put my arm on a sling because it's just horrible. And then pandemic started and I couldn't go to my surgeon. And he said, I'm going to recommend you someone in Brisbane that can, because we need to get that plate out. And I said, please not the cowboy guy. I don't want to see the cowboy dude. I don't want to see that dude. No, so he recommended a guy, and I met him, and the guy was lovely, and he's like, yep, no worries, we'll take that plate out. But because of the pandemic, like surgeons suddenly have these huge waiting lists, Like you could book the surgery before in like a week, and now you had to. Well, that's why the surgeon in Melbourne said, just don't book it with me, because I don't remember how many. I think he said I had 128 patients waiting for surgery, because the COVID regulations only allow for like, I don't know, 3 surgeons a week or something ridiculous. And he was doing that on a day, And so I went to this guy, and fortunately, Brisbane, we were out of the lockdown. So the surgeon here could operate full capacity. And I went in, they got the plate out. Actually, the guy thought that, because he thought the lump was really weird. So he thought, you might have a hernia in your muscle. And I was like,
oh, no.
What? He took the plate out, and he said, I didn't find anything wrong. So all good, man. And that was end of June last year. And that I'm still recovering, because, it's a very intrusive thing. And those tendons and muscles take a long time for them to feel normal and strong again. So what I've experienced in this last 9-8 months is like waves, good days, bad days, good days. And what I experience is that everything's getting bigger. So the good days are getting longer, and the bad days are sort of getting shorter, and so on and so forth. Except at the beginning of the year, 1st of January, like on New Year Day, it's like, all right, New Year's resolutions. This year is going to be awesome. I woke up on 1st of January, and it's just like horrible pain in my arm. It's like, thanks.
No!
Thank you, 2020. Yeah. Anyway, it turns out that I was I was putting my hand in an awkward shape in the computer.
Oh yeah.
And as soon as I stopped using the computer for my composition and stuff, then now it feels really great. Actually, it's feel the best it is felt, and now I can demonstrate a bit in my lessons. I can play for my students, but I'm not fully capacity. I think I need to wait a lot more so that there's actually no bad days. And actually I'm gonna see the surgeon again next week because I want to talk to him about stem cell treatment. So I'm a big NBA fan. And I've read a lot that a lot of NBA players are doing that at the moment. And they say it's helping them a lot, and especially with injuries that have to do with inflammation and those sort of stuff, like ACL, rotator cuff, all that stuff. And so I want to talk to him and say if because there's 2 really good places here in Brisbane that do stem cell. And I just want to see if that's a good just to encourage your better healing around the scar area, which is now the problem that I'm dealing with. My wrist is completely fine now, touching wood.
Yeah.
And that's where I am right now. Just keeping it tight.
I blame the ballet orchestra. That's my because I tell you, I used to play for 7 years in the Milwaukee Ballet up in Wisconsin, and one of the most physically demanding things I ever did was this fake Tchaikovsky ballet. They took like all the hard parts from all Tchaikovsky pieces and strung them together into one ballet. And the thing is with ballet, there are no breaks, right? So I was never as exhausted as I was that week. And I have, touch wood again. I have not had issues. Certainly nothing like your journey, but man, ballet orchestras.
And especially Tchaikovsky, that you're like half an hour playing G's on the E string.
Right.
That's what kills you. Anyway.
Right. Well, so imagine take every big moment, the beginning of the finale of Tchaik 4, and then, all the fast stuff from Romeo and Juliet, and just make them all ballet numbers, right? So it's like, boom, boom, next one. So, I mean, it's great to hear that you've been, it sounds like things are positive on the injury front at this point, even though you're still on the recovery process. Man, what a crazy story. That is.
Yeah, it's been 4 years. 4 years, almost 4 years. It's crazy.
Wow. That stuff heals slow too. I mean, my wife and I got in a car accident in 2018, and she was driving and she broke her wrist. And it's nothing nearly as extensive as what you've gone through, but she has a plate in her wrist, and she has whatever this area is you were talking about. I will describe to her when she gets home from work what we were talking about, and she'll know exactly what you're, because it's a sort of thing where that's 3 years ago at this point, and she's now playing some harp, but she starts to get this stabbing pain right there. And luckily she's not a professional musician anymore. So it's like, it doesn't bother her in her doctor life, but still it's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. And well, for me, it turns out it was a genetic predisposition, but a year and a half ago, I started a PhD in composition, which is the main thing that I'm doing to rebuild my career in the artistic way. And the context of my research is my injury. And so I spent a lot of time at the beginning of my research just reading about injuries, and it was actually a bit depressing, but it was very enlightening to see that, for example, I don't remember what the numbers are, but it's just like more than half of musicians in an orchestra are injured at any given time, like all the time, and it's due to a poor scheduling practice from the management, to poor ergonomic practice from part of the musicians, and all these different risk factors that apply for an injury, and it's something that you never prepared or dealt with in your preparation as a musician. And I was certainly not prepared for this at all, and all the aspects of, I didn't know I was entitled for a claim. I had no idea, so I lost that. I didn't know. I didn't know a lot of things. I didn't know how to deal with my mental health. I didn't know how to deal with the injury itself, and because of that, I think that's why it's spiraled out of control. And so a very important thing that I try to enforce with my students is that, every time they say they have a pain, it's like, okay, describe it to me. We try to understand that. We don't try to push it through, but to really understand how bodies work and how can we make them not go past their own limits, and make sure that we stay within a certain amount of constraints that are going to permit us to keep doing what we're doing, because otherwise I've met so many kids, very young musicians, they just have to quit and they haven't even started. It's just really sad.
Well, and there's a stigma, and I know that's changing, but musicians are afraid to talk about that because this is what we use to make our music, and our it feels so fragile, and admitting something like that can be seen as a sign of weakness. And I do think that's changing. But I've had some conversations with people in orchestras here in the States, in particular, but about that, and it sounds like more organizations, or at least ones I've been paying attention to, have started to recognize that critical importance of, not playing injured, right? But we have this we're going to stick it out. I'm going to muscle through. I'm going to get through in the practice room. I can take that extra gig. I can do 9 services this week. No problem. I'll hold my bass, up and down some extra. And there's just so the causes, I guess we were talking about, the causes can be kind of mysterious with these injuries. It could be like you, where you were just, it sounds like genetically predisposed, for something to happen. Or it could be like Sue Wolf, the bassist in the San Diego Symphony. She was in a mild car accident, I think, just a fender bender, but she tweaked something in her neck and it ended up causing all these nerve problems. And it was one of those things that and the solution was just very not clear. She ended up getting acupuncture. I think she got some sort of electrical treatment. And she told me what it was. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was one of those things over time and taking good care of herself. And she's an athlete too. She's a dancer and everything, but it's just, it seems so, it's so, we just have to be so careful with that. That's obviously and what a crazy difference the right doctor can make, right? Doesn't it seem like
absolutely?
It seems so shameful that that horrible bedside practice that you get in these older generations. There are remarkably few people that are really, I'm sure it sounds like it's similar in Australia. Back in Chicago, there was one person, that was Alice Branfenbrenner, who was outstanding with musician injuries, and then or I think maybe David Branfenbrenner, whatever. But there just weren't a lot of people. So if you found that person, they might be able to help you, but you go to someone else and you get that treatment you're talking about, being an hour late or that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference to be taken seriously. Absolutely. So shout out to Dr. Tony Berger in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Changed my life.
That's awesome. Hey,
and that's something that I was just going to say that when I encountered people that have that problems and stuff, my main advice is try your hardest to find the best advice possible that you can trust, because that's one of the most crucial things for you to get better anyway.
Mm-hmm. Hey, my dog is staring at me, indicating I think if I don't take him out for the bathroom, bad things are going to happen. So we should probably wrap up. But hey, my friend, I remember I think it was one time when I was chatting with Phoebe. You're a Golden State Warriors fan, right? Or at least, or you've changed your. Okay.
Look, I'm not. I don't pick a. I haven't picked a team.
Okay,
I just love watching all the different players because they're so different. And actually, one of the things that got me into the NBA was also they suffer so many injuries, and you have to be so skilled to play basketball that it correlates so well to being a musician. And I'm a big Steph Curry fan. I love Klay Thompson, all these people, and I would love, if we get to go to San Francisco to meet you and stuff. I would love to go to a Warriors game.
I was just going to suggest that, though. We're probably the closest place in the States to where you're at. It's still far, but if you and Phoebe come over here, we'll get us all some Warriors tickets, and we'll go in. And they have, well, since you follow the Chase Center, this new center, and it was, of course, I love the way that they opened it up, not with a Warriors game, but it was with the San Francisco Symphony and Metallica, and the principal bass, Scott Pingle, playing a bass solo in front of 50,000 people between the two shows. So
that's so cool.
Hey,
that's how it needs to be.
Thanks so much for chatting. This is let's do a round two sometime. And I love having people back. More that you've got such a fascinating career, and even though you've gone through all of this, you've obviously got a lot of career ahead of you. So we could talk composition or teaching or all that kind of good stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Bernardo, thank you so much. Folks, check him out online at bernardoalviz.com. That's linked up in the show notes. And yeah, can't wait to chat again in person, hopefully next time, although it's great to connect over Zoom or however. And I can't wait to check out what you're going to be writing, Bernardo. That's exciting to hear. We'll definitely have to talk about that in the future. Thank you for listening to this. I really appreciate it. It is so much fun for me to do these podcasts, to have these talks, and to broadcast them out into the world. Is broadcasting a term in podcasting? I guess it's, whatever. You know what I mean. And so thank you for listening. If it's your first episode, welcome. If it's a long-time habit of yours listening to these, thank you. I'm honored that you take time out of your life to listen to these. I listen to a ton of podcasts myself when I'm walking the dog or doing the dishes or going for a run or that sort of thing. I have these people that I feel like are my companions throughout my days and weeks and months and even years for some of them. So if you've been on this journey with me, thank you so much. I have no idea how I got started doing this, and I keep doing it every week, and it's been a lot of fun. I have been thinking, once the pandemic is over, whatever the heck that means, whenever the heck that happens, what am I going to go back to in terms of podcasting? Obviously these have all been over Zoom or other technologies like that the last year and change. I was getting really far away from that and trying to do everything live and going on these trips, and maybe I'll go back to that. Maybe I'll go back to that fully. I'm starting to get a little bit busier in my life, which is a good problem to have as anybody in 2021, particularly as a musician. And I'm starting to feel that squeeze of projects and my time kind of being compressed, which is fine. I feel that and have felt that over the years. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you probably have a busy life as well. But the podcast is fitting into my life, but I'm feeling this little bit of, there's not quite enough time to do everything feeling again. So hopefully that will settle down on my end. And I think that's all I have to say. I'm going to close out here. We're going to go down and meet my wife, we being the dog and myself, and pick up a pizza combo at Casey's Pizza near my wife's work. So that's going to be fun. Just doing these outros here on a Thursday. It's 72 degrees Fahrenheit today, so we're starting to get nice and warm here in San Francisco. And yeah, it's been a full few weeks on my end. Looking forward to the weekend. I have been taking weekends and really trying to unplug and decompress. With rare exceptions, sometimes there are a few bass events that I've been pulled into, which I welcome, but I really enjoy having that time to recharge. So I'm going to get out of here and just thank the team: Michael Cooper, Steve Hinchy, Mitch Mooring. Sorry, wow, I feel like I haven't done these in a while. Trevor Jones, and Mitch makes beautiful basses in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Learn more at his website, mitchmooring.com. He's been doing some really cool behind the scenes things, both with Barry Green and with the International Society of Bassists. Just a great person in general. So definitely check out his work, regardless of whether or not you need a bass. But if you do need a bass, Mitch is great. I'm your host, Jason Heath, and we will see you again soon for more life in the low end of the spectrum.